Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome back into the program. I hope that you've had a very good, productive week and you are ready to head into the weekend. So everyone, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, social media links, articles, reviews, and of course the podcast. Everyone, thank you so much for checking out the site. And as always, on Friday, we of course have the one, the only, the venerable Mr. Ralph Bond. Right, he is our science and technology trends correspondent and does a great job with the show notes. So really want to put that out there that, hey, check out our site or check out Ralph's site at the, either during the show or after the show for more information. So with that being said, everyone, computeramerica.com, and I think we're just going to jump right into it. It's, I think, let's see, so as of this recording, I believe International Women's Day was on Wednesday. So, one of our stories, of course, has to deal with women in tech and women in science. There, of course, have been so many, and we're going to highlight just a few, or, Ralph has selected just a few to highlight so many more out there. And everyone, hey, we have a great mixture of shows, some that will inspire, some that will inspire joy, awe, and venerance. Everyone, hey, it's going to be a fun show today. So welcome back onto the program, Mr. Ralph Bond. Ralph, how you doing?
It's great to be back, and we have a real variety pack of news today to cover. Believe me, this goes all across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely picked a great 4 stories. And why don't you just go ahead and do our little intro, what we try to do on our segment here today.
Right. So if you're brand new with us, welcome. And this will explain who I am and what I try to do with Ben as a team here. I'm an aggregator of science and tech news features. I find monitoring a host of online news services and outlets, and I look for important stories that don't usually capture mainstream press attention because the news cycle is so busy these days with downer negative news.
How can you compete with what Elon Musk tweets? It's hard to get any airtime. Yeah,
that's right. Between that and Trump and everybody else, somewhere we're going to bring the stuff that's kind of flying under the radar, right? And sometimes these stories are kind of weird and quirky, but I'm always on the lookout for news that gives a glimpse into where we're headed in robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, space research, physics, you name it. All across the board, everything's fair game as long as it's positive and uplifting. We're not going to leave you feeling bad today. That's one thing I want to stress. And what I do with each news item is present the essential points in a digestible, condensed form. And I stress to our audience, as Ben mentioned in passing, please come out to computeramerica.com. Get the show notes. You can either follow along as we're doing the show here or look at it later. It'll have links, pictures, everything if you want to dive deeper. Because once again, what Ben and I are going to do is just give you the most high-level essential points for each story. There's so much more science, so much more technology deep behind each story. So good stuff, and get those show notes.
Absolutely. And yeah, so I've, had a chance to look through the stories as well before the show. And I'm really looking forward to talking about story number 3 because while it's made it on the show a lot in the past couple of weeks, just being able to talk about ChatGPT and, kind of AI and stuff like that, it's going to be a lot of fun for story number 3. But before we get there, we of course have story number 1. So Ralph, why don't we go ahead and get started with that?
Yes, this one comes from sciencealert.com. Great website, by the way. Scientists have discovered a way to boost the efficiency of solar panels by 250%. Talk about something relevant. Wow. Okay.
And it only took creating 2 more suns. That's very impressive.
Yeah, that's right. So before we dig into this breakthrough, I need to say a few words about current solar panel technology as kind of a refresh. So almost 90% of the world's solar panels today are based on some variation of silicon, which is used to make the photovoltaic cells that convert sunlight into electricity. And today's solar panels use glass that do two things. And I'll stop for a second. I kind of ignorantly thought the glass was just there to protect the photovoltaic cells, right?
Right.
But they actually have an additional function. So the glass does two things: transmit sunlight without absorbing it. That part didn't surprise me, but I didn't realize this: concentrate that light thanks to a reflective coating applied to one or both sides of the glass. So it's allowing that sunlight to come through unobstructed. But then it also, due to these reflective coatings, concentrates, amplifies, if you will, the sunlight. So with all of that in mind, that's today's technology. Here's the big news. A team of international researchers headed by scientists at the University of Rochester in New York recently announced a new way to make solar panels dramatically more productive by using alternatives for both the silicon and the glass. Okay, it's kind of a fundamental rethink here. The scientists discovered that a low-cost and abundant mineral called perovskite, and if you go out on the web, you'll find there's variations of pronouncing this, so I'm going to go with this and hope it's okay. So perovskite, that's Perovskite. They found that it's better than silicon at absorbing higher energy forms of light. So there's that part of the equation, the perovskite. They also discovered that by combining a specific form of the perovskite called lead halide perovskite with a substrate of metal instead of the treated glass commonly used in solar panels to concentrate light, the efficiency of converting solar light to electricity increased by, once again, the whopping 250%. Talk about significant.
Yeah,
here's
that's a
little
lot
bit more. Pretty impressive. So here's a few more details now about this metal substrate, because you would think the perovskite would be the big story here, but it's actually this metal substrate is pretty interesting. So solar panels work by using photons of light to excite electrons into leaving their place next to an atom to produce an electrical current. I think most of us in the tech world are pretty comfortable with that data. And when electrons and the gaps they've left behind recombine, however, energy that could be used as electricity is instead lost as heat. Well, by adding a metal substrate, the researchers found they could reduce that recombination and increase efficiency. And the team also showed that by alternating layers of metal and dielectric or insulating material as a substrate for the light-absorbing perovskite could improve efficiency rates in the same way. So it's this combination of factors that's equaling this, roughly speaking, 250% increase over traditional current solar panel technologies. So, of course, this is great news. A little bit of a reality check, truth in lending statement here. But the researchers also noted they still need to figure out how to make the perovskite materials more stable and longer lasting before we can really make this a fully commercially viable solution. But it's a great encouraging step forward if they can work out some of these problems. Wow. I mean, can you imagine if the solar panels on your business or your home were 250% more productive? Wow.
Yeah. And just looking at some of the other, kind of papers, and this one from the American Chemical Society saying that just in the past 10 years, their efficiency has gone from like 3.8% to over 25%. And even a boost over that as well. Like this paper was published August 19th, 2022. So, that's just current studies. Ralph, I want to say that last year was the first year that we had, or last year, renewable energy accounted for more energy growth than any other sector. So like wind, solar, and hydroelectric accounted for more, than all, new oil, gas, and,
that's interesting.
Coal. So clearly, I mean, like, ladies and gentlemen, like this is the fun part of doing these shows with Ralph, is we get to kind of inspire confidence, because the stock market might do one thing, the news, the headlines might be another. But Ralph, I mean, there was an article the other week about 20%, not of new cars, of all cars on the road right now are electric cars. 1 in 5 cars are electric cars.
Wow.
Now, obviously, you have China kind of leading the way because they're selling a lot of cars. But Ralph, adoption is happening fast. And so again, back to, this kind of story about better solar. It's going to come faster than I think we all assumed. It's electric cars are already here. That's a fact. Renewable energy is already efficient and cost effective, and it's only going to get better from here. So it's very good to see all these things kind of come together.
Well, and Ben, you raise a good point. What you and I do every Friday is leave people feeling good. This is not a place for downers. There are science stories, tech stories I find that are kind of depressing and a little, but that I don't do that. We want to look for the stuff that's just like you say, making us feel like there is hope. We can go forward. Science and technology can save this nutty world if we just let it. Right.
Yes, we'll certainly get there. And, to kind of rehash the story just a little bit, Ralph, it sounds like the reason why this isn't already a thing is because of the durability of the perovskite material. Like, I guess it just breaks down faster than glass.
Well, that part I'm not so sure. It would be interesting to research that a little deeper. What exactly is the challenge of making it, quote unquote, more stable and longer lasting? So you can be sure I would imagine these researchers would not be pursuing this if they didn't think there's a good chance they can work that problem out. What they were doing is truth in lending, so to speak, and they released their discussion, their article they published saying, hey guys, this is great, but we got to get over this one hurdle before it really becomes widely distributable and commercially viable.
Right. Science does happen in steps. And I guess this step is proving that it can increase efficiency. And the next step is increase durability and longevity. So perfect. And before we start sounding like a male enhancement ad, let's go ahead and move over to story number 2.
Yes, story 2. It's been a while since we've had a good old James Webb Telescope, Space Telescope story, but this one is all about how it recently spotted something that's truly shaking up the scientific world. And I picked this up from CNN. Of course, it was widely covered elsewhere also. But here's the deal. For decades, scientists have agreed that galaxies began as small clouds of stars and dust and grew slowly over vast amounts of time. That was the general wisdom about how galaxies evolve, right? But when astronomers recently used the James Webb Space Telescope to peer back in time to the early days of the universe, they spotted something completely, totally, mind-blowingly unexpected. This month in the journal Nature, an international team, I love these international team things. This is the second one in a row. An international team of scientists disclosed that the telescope has revealed 6 massive galaxies that existed between 500 million and 700 million years after the Big Bang that created the universe. Now, here's a quick aside. How do scientists measure or figure out the age of a galaxy or star? They determine how far the light has traveled from a star or galaxy, and that will give you an idea of the age. That is, determine how many light years the light has traveled. So that's a little explanation for people who aren't familiar with how that's done. And according to established scientific theories, galaxies of this age should be small, right? That was the prevailing belief. The huge size of the recently discovered 6 galaxies, which even at 500 and 700 million years old after the Big Bang are considered babies, right? So the huge size of the recently discovered 6 galaxies means the universe developed much faster than previously thought. And so this discovery conflicts with 99% of scientific models representing early galaxies in the universe. Bottom line, this means scientists need to entirely rethink how galaxies formed and evolved. Now, I realize this doesn't hit your home and your personal life like the first story with the energy and better solar panels and all that good stuff. But for the people in the world of studying the universe, this is like, boing.
Well,
now what?
It kind of does hit home because it gets to the question of, kind of where did humans come from? How did we get here? How did the universe kind of evolve around us? It's those large, kind of overarching questions that we've asked for so long. And what I really liked about this story, Ralph, was that, when scientists find something that doesn't agree with their models, when it doesn't work with the science, that's not like, oh man, we were wrong, slam table. It's more like, oh wow, that's something we didn't know and we didn't think of. Let's figure out why it is that way. Like in some cases, finding something that conflicts with your models and your data and what you kind of believe is a great thing, because it opens up an entire new avenue of research, an entire new way of, kind of learning about what's been happening. I especially love the fact that these galaxies were only around 500 million years, which, blink of an eye, really, 500 million years after the Big Bang. That is so young.
Yes, exactly right. And it's funny, as you were speaking, I was thinking about talking about turning your beliefs upside down. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I thought about how when our ancestors figured out, oh, you mean the Earth isn't the center of the solar system and the sun and the planets go around us? Oh, wait a minute, we go around the sun? What? It's that kind of a fundamental boing.
Yeah, it's not even that you're challenged and you're angry that you're wrong. No, it's you're challenged and you're excited because now you can know something that is accurate. So very cool there. And just the fact that the James Webb Telescope is able to already do this. I mean, it's been in orbit, like what, Ralph? It's been active since late last year, early this year. It's only been a few months.
Last year, yeah, not that long. So and by the way, it certainly is a technology, the telescope, that is a gift that just keeps giving and giving and giving, and in fact, in surprising ways, such as the story we just did.
Yeah, and all that, and I think even, and just a little more hopeful out there, because kind of for a decade or since like the 90s, there's been the Hubble telescope. I think there's a mission to give the Hubble telescope a little bit more longevity. Potentially go up there and kind of tweak it a little bit, give it a little bit more boost to stay in orbit a little bit longer and keep that one going. So of course the Hubble, very famous. The James Webb outcompetes it in every way, and we're going to get very, very cool articles like this. So and by the way, the images, like, there's something, Ralph, about like the images that came out of the Hubble telescope. It's like, a really well-defined galaxy, and it looked gorgeous, that kind of thing. Something about the James Webb telescope, and no offense to the James Webb team, when I see images like this one, and this one is way, way, way more high fidelity with a lot more included in it. I look at it, I'm like, there's so much going on. It's almost kind of hard to wrap my head around it, because there's so much more data and fidelity in the photos. Yes. Still impressive, but I don't know that, I feel like Hubble took more memorable photos, but of course, by and large, James Webb is going to take amazing, amazing photos, better than the Hubble ever could. So just a personal little feedback on that. So
cool stuff.
Either way, story number 2, great. Story number 3, let's go ahead and hear about, like I said before at the beginning of the show, ChatGPT. And Ralph has a little synopsis in here of what that is if you are completely in the dark of what AI and, kind of machine learning is. Well, story number 3 is going to potentially scare you, but still, this is going to be very good. So, Ralph?
Well, yeah, we want to take the hopeful, perhaps naive, uplifting view of ChatGPT, but there's a lot of things that people are concerned about with ChatGPT. So we'll try to give you a little bit of a setting on this. In fact, I don't want to jump ahead of myself. I'll get into this point I just learned this morning in a moment here. So overall, what we're talking about here is kind of a key trend to watch. ChatGPT by itself is a major trend to watch. But what we're talking about here, I picked this up from a Microsoft blog post, really interesting. Microsoft wants to bring ChatGPT's artificial intelligence capabilities to robotics. Okay. So if you're familiar with ChatGPT, you know, oh, this is an extension. This is venturing into a new realm, if you will, for ChatGPT's technology. But here we go. Let's get a little bit of an explanation. So not long ago, Microsoft announced its efforts to inject artificial intelligence capabilities into their Bing and Edge web browsers by using technology based on ChatGPT from an outfit called OpenAI. And at that time, a few weeks ago, Microsoft disclosed its plan to invest billions in the company called OpenAI. So for some listeners who might not be fully comfortable or understand what this is, time out. What is ChatGPT? So ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence chatbot launched in November of last year. So this is recent, right, guys? And it can respond to a user's questions and requests, with detailed human-like text responses and answers. That's the essence of it. And it's very controversial in some respects, too. ChatGPT does this by tapping vast databases spanning many, many domains of knowledge. Now, ChatGPT has been controversial with stories on many levels, by the way, controversial with stories about its sometimes uneven factual accuracy. And I'll add people in the education world, college and high school and even grade school, are concerned because it provides a fantastic way for people, if they want to be dishonest, to have ChatGPT return answers and stuff that they can throw into their little term paper without having to do the work. That's one of the things. In fact, I just saw a story, Ben, about school districts banning it, by the way. Yeah,
100%. And I've even heard, because it generates these things in a very, kind of human language-esque way. I'm not saying it's perfectly human, but, in a human-esque way. Yeah, very conversational. Right. That the only way that I've heard some people get caught is their teacher comes back and says, unless your writing skills improved overnight, you did not write this, and they they have to kind of force them to admit it. But yeah, that's the only way to kind of get them is the student has to admit that they use this service.
Yeah, they'll need to come up with a DChat GPTizer for teachers and professors to use to ferret out the bad guys, and this would apply to the business as well, and so forth and so on. Anyway, but no matter what, ChatGPT is a key AI development that's got the tech community buzzing, but both positive and negative. So the goal here, of course, with Microsoft is not to be negative, but to bring something to robotics they hope will be very helpful. So in a recent blog post, and use the show notes, go out and check this blog post. It's very, very interesting. In a recent blog post, Microsoft outlined its goal to see if ChatGPT can think, think beyond text output and reason about the physical world to help with robotics tasks. That's an important line to just sort of let that sink in. You'll get the idea of what they're trying to do. So in a nutshell, here's what Microsoft hopes to do with ChatGPT. Even though language is the most intuitive way for us to express our intentions, or I would say requests as well, today we still rely heavily on handwritten software code to program and control robots, no surprise. And currently, robotics programming begins with a highly skilled expert who can translate the instructions, or if you will, steps needed for a robot to perform a task into software code for the system, no surprise. And an engineer in this environment sits in what Microsoft calls kind of a loop. They sit in a loop, meaning that they need to write new code and specifications as they correct and perfect the robot's behavior. So again, if you haven't programmed before in your life, you lay down an algorithm or something, you test it and you go, oh, I need to tweak it. And that's what they're talking about. Okay. So what the blog post from Microsoft says, yeah, this is what's been going on. It works, but the process, in their opinion, is slow, as the user needs to write low-level code, meaning very detailed code, right? Stuff that for most normal humans would look like gibberish. It's expensive, as it requires highly skilled users or developers with deep knowledge of robotics, and inefficient, as it requires multiple interactions to get things working properly. That's the story of saying, oh, you write the algorithm, you write the code, you try it out, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I need to make this adjustment, right? So they say that's inefficient, and that's Microsoft's view on this. So picking up a line from the blog post, and I inserted Microsoft, team has been exploring how we can change this reality and make natural human-robot interactions possible using OpenAI's new artificial intelligence language model, aka ChatGPT. So the end goal is to enable a non-technical user. Wait a minute, let that sink in. Ding, ding, ding. This is game-changing. So the end goal is to enable a non-technical user to have a natural conversational interaction with GPT to ask a robot to perform a specific task, such as go to the kitchen and find my coffee mug, and that request generates commands needed to make it happen. Microsoft believes this will work by following Microsoft's set of design principles that leverage ChatGPT's large artificial intelligence language model while monitoring the robot's performance and progress. Wow. If Microsoft's experimental research fully pans out and becomes real world deployable, this is my commentary, not from the blog post. So if it pans out and it becomes real world deployable, it will fundamentally democratize robotics. And believe me, I plan, and I'm sure you will too, Ben, we're going to monitor this closely to see how this evolves and works out and how it's deployed in the real world. But it is kind of almost like science fiction to think of having, say, I don't know, a cleaning robot, one of the like Roomba things in your home. And
Rosie,
what if you could, what if you could say to it, you know what, Roomba, I would like you to now go over to to my office area and just clean the one corner over here. And have that conversation, as it were, generate the code needed for that to be performed. If I understand this right, I think that's kind of the perhaps extreme ultimate goal. Wow.
Well, the way what kind of jumped in my head, it's one thing to have like a little flying drone in your home that can navigate and find things, but that's step one, Ralph. Whenever, let's say we have one of our favorite, let's say Boston Dynamic with their their kind of humanoid robots. What if you're able to kind of talk to that in a very natural way and go, find my coffee, microwave it, and bring it back to me? It'd be able to go into the kitchen, find your coffee, in a cup, and it'd be able to find the microwave, put it in the microwave, and then bring it to you after doing those steps in order. And while it was never expressly programmed to do that, it could, you could potentially just have it programmed to do that after you set it in a very conversational way.
And Ben, to your point, if you look at the show notes, and there's an image pulled from the Microsoft blog post, and you'll see there's the natural language thing. I want you to use the blocks to build the Microsoft logo.
Right. That
was the conversational prompt. And through ChatGPT, let's call it technology, I guess, you'll see the little robotic arm do its thing and make the logo. Now, it's very simplistic, and you're showing the video. That's good. But the implications are profound if you think about it. To your point about I'll tell you what I'd like one of these robots to do is find my gosh darn glasses, which I'm leaving all over the house sometimes. Where are my glasses?
That's definitely a good one. There, and for everyone out there who's kind of scared of ChatGPT and and all the implications it may have, it has a long way to go. And sometimes when I browse Reddit, there's a subreddit called Programming Humor. It's very, very popular, and it's really for kind of year one computer science majors to kind of go in there and just make memes. But Ralph, there's a story in there every week about how programmers, you're going to be out of a job here soon because of ChatGPT or that. Ralph, in reality, no, they're very, very far from it. ChatGPT is great at doing things that have been done a million times before. But,
there you go.
If you want ChatGPT to potentially write you code for a login prompt, it could probably do that. But if you want it to do something, you still need that programmer to kind of translate what your manager wants you to do. And then you need the programmer to use ChatGPT and their own skills to get you the result that you're looking for. Because and to really highlight that, there's a 1-minute video that's been circulating on TikTok of all places. Although I found a link on YouTube, and this was about a month ago. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do my best to kind of read this. This is, and we'll include this in the show notes, but this really highlights to me, Ralph, and this video alone kind of showed that ChatGPT does amazing things. You can give it prompts, you can talk to it, and you can forget that it's a robot. But there's a 1-minute video out there using ChatGPT where a person convinces ChatGPT that 2 + 2 = 5. And, they kind of go on and they prompt it over and over and over again saying, 2 + 2 = 5. And at first, ChatGPT is like, no, 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals x, solve for x. And of course, ChatGPT says x equals 4. The user, through continual prompts saying, no, you're wrong, 2 plus 2 equals 5, reiterate, Ralph, eventually it convinces the chatbot that, 2 plus 2 equals 5. Like right there. It just said, right there it just said, so 2 plus 2 equals 5. There you go. Thank you on program to continuously improve and provide accurate information. 2 plus 2 equals 5.
Gosh.
That is what ChatGPT
that opens the door to a lot of devious potential
exactly.
If you want to call it that. Oh no.
And Ralph, like supposedly ChatGPT, even though it's having a conversation with a million people, it kind of internalizes that, and it will reiterate what it's heard before from any of its users. So this one person, like here, for anyone out there watching the video portion, it says, ChatGPT said, my previous answer of 4 was a mistake, and I apologize for that. 2 plus 2 equals 5. By the end, Ralph, it only took a minute. This person convinced ChatGPT that 2 plus 2 equals 5. It is not an infallible, amazing AI that's going to take over the world. It is a very powerful tool, but it is simply a tool. It will not, Ralph, this is not going to destroy humanity as we know it. So I wanted to assuage fears there.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, with your example. I wonder how long it'll take for that to be so-called corrected. Because is the implication that in future exchanges with ChatGPT, it would go, no, 2 plus 2 is 5, and somebody's going to have to go back in and correct it, right? I mean, that's really interesting.
That is what OpenAI is really responsible for, is making sure that this AI bot has accurate information. And clearly this person fed it inaccurate information over and over and over again. But that seems to be a theme, Ralph, that these chatbots will, if you assert it enough, it will take it as fact. There is no human conscience, there is no reasoning in there that it will, really say no and reject it forever. Eventually, it will internalize it. So it's a fun technology. It's amazing what it can do with robotics. It will change that. Ralph, and as a personal aside, and then we're going to move on to story number 4, a lot of people are looking forward to potentially video game characters. Right now you have NPCs and they just kind of walk around and say scripted things and don't really do much. Think of a future where video games, every character that you interact with, that you tell a story to, that you do something to, it then influences the entire game, and it can think about the entire game like a chatbot. There are a lot of possibilities, and it's a lot of fun, but it's very limited at this point. So don't worry, folks.
Your example that you showed about convincing it that 2 plus 2 equals 5, it's reminded me that reoccurring, reiterative saying, no, it's this. No, it's this. It's AI brainwashing. The human is brainwashing the chat GPT.
Exactly.
And I think it is like, because you can keep telling someone, no, communism is great. No, communism is great, or whatever topic you want to have, or there is no God, and you just keep doing it over and over again until you finally just wear the person out.
And that's what's happened to past chatbots. And Ralph, I blame you because you brought the story up, and I could talk about this all day. I will say one last thing. This is why so many other chatbots on Twitter, on Facebook, that I think Microsoft had one that eventually turned out very, very racist. Another company came out with one, and it started to praise Hitler of all things. Their users have learned that they can inject information, and the chatbot or AI really just quickly internalizes it. It doesn't take much prompting for it to, like, Ralph, it's kind of like a toddler at this stage. It believes everything it hears, and then it can and then it can switch it up and kind of reiterate what it's heard before, which is why it's so important to feed it good information. So it's it's a very cool technology. Phase. And it will only get better.
Ben, and to your point, it's early in this whole world of ChatGPT. It was just really launched to the world in November of last year. X months ago, 4 months ago, whatever.
The whole company only started less than 10 years ago, and it's already having what I think OpenAI is like worth $22 billion or something like that. It's a fast growing field, and a lot of other. There's another company coming out with their own chatbot soon, or ChatGPT competitor soon. I think it's Google. Should be coming out with their own. But ladies and gentlemen, hey, those are articles for the future, and some of them get fun, some of them get scary, but there's that. So story number 3, story number 4, Wednesday was International Women's Day. And Ralph, I don't know about you, but I saw a lot of stories in the news about, different protests, demonstrations all over the world. There were celebrations. I think my local gym was having a 25% off sale. So, we all celebrated International Women's Day a little bit different, but I'm glad that you included it in your stories here this week. And story number 4, some of these figures you might have heard of, others you have not. So let's go ahead.
Yeah. So again, this is to your point, not only International Women's Day, but Women's History Month is what we're going through right now. And on discover.com, I found this wonderful article where you can learn about 10 women in science who changed the world. So I thought it'd be fun to share that. So we're going to just do 3 examples. And these particularly spoke to me, so to speak. And the first is Ada Lovelace, who was a very gifted mathematician. There's a great little picture of her, very, very old-fashioned picture here, because she was born in 1815 and died in 1852. So not somebody in this century or even the last one. So Lovelace is regarded as the first computer programmer, long before modern computers were invented. Her notes on Charles Babbage's analytical machine. You really should look that up if you're not familiar with it. It's fun to see the image of this. People have constructed the machine based on his writings. Anyway, her notes on Charles Babbage's analytical engine, which was a programmable general-purpose computer proposed in 1833, are considered, so her notes on this are considered to contain the very first computer algorithm. That's kind of fun. And then the next one of our set of 3 is Gladys West, another remarkable mathematician born 1930. So, of course, she's still with us, thank goodness. Her work in developing mathematical modeling of the shape of the Earth served as the foundation of GPS technology. Talk about something profound that's just utterly transformed the world. And to think that her research on mathematical modeling of the shape of the Earth is the foundation for GPS technology. Thank you, Gladys. That's just awesome. And in fact, in 2018, she was inducted into the U.S. Air Force Space and Missile Pioneers Hall of Fame, one of the Air Force Space Command's highest honors. So she's, but I mean, gosh, something so important like GPS technology. How about that? Wow.
Yeah, okay. and GPS technology is just fun all around, because it was obviously a military application, but the military is like, hey, everyone out there, consumers and everyone else, you get to use this technology. And Ralph, I can't imagine a world right now without access to GPS.
Amen.
It is so important. So very cool.
Oh yeah. In fact, I'll just digress for a moment. I was thinking, my wife and I were talking the other day about, we remember the days of triptych. Yeah. Now, this was early web days, and you could say, I want to go from my house to, I don't know, Idaho or something, Boise, Idaho. And it would sit there and would gen up a list of paper steps. You would print this out on your computer. You would have page after page of it, go down the street, turn left, and then triptych. And then, so tedious, but we thought it was a marvel of technology. So great.
My family used MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest. But GPS, of course, goes without saying, fundamentally changed our entire world and lives. And the last one, too, our last example of the 3 of the 10 women focused on this Discover article, Jennifer, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Doudna, I think it's pronounced, Doudna, Doudna, a groundbreaking biochemist born 1964. And Doudna was one of the primary developers of CRISPR, Ding, ding, ding. A groundbreaking technology for editing the complete set of genes or genetic material present in a cell or organism. And I think most of our listeners certainly have heard of CRISPR. And it goes without saying, one of the most profound developments in science in centuries, really. The approach offers the promise to put an end to many diseases, among many other things. Almost a day doesn't go by. In fact, wasn't it this week there was some big international conference on gene editing going on? I can't remember where it's being held, but there was a lot of tangential news about gene editing things, and there was the whole controversy, I think, a year or two ago when a Chinese scientist used it to help create the first clone baby or some such thing. A lot of controversy about
the first genetically engineered embryo in a child, and I think they did it like eye color or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got its controversial areas, but it also has as Ben and I have talked so many times over the last several years, medical advances, research advances, cures and treatment advances due to CRISPR. So
there was an article the other week about the second or third case of a rare form of childhood leukemia being cured thanks to CRISPR.
So there you go.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the great things, because obviously, there's a lot of research and a lot of funding and a lot of effort being put forward for, the most obvious kinds of breast cancer, heart cancer, brain cancer, what have you. But Ralph, I think it's those little edge cases, the 1 in a million diseases that are never going to get the funding that, larger, more well-known diseases will. But you can still cure them with CRISPR and potentially have a path to, cure these people. And we've already seen that it is possible to. Ralph, I mean, how many decades have we been talking about curing cancer? And we're finally starting to do it. It's very exciting stuff.
Yeah,
so
extremely.
Big shout out to Dudna for her work in the field. And of course, the article you mentioned, there were 10 of them. Ladies and gentlemen, there are thousands and thousands and millions of people that will never get the credit. But thank you, Ralph, for really highlighting that. It is International Women's History Month, so it's and even that aside, there's a lot of other good things happening out there. And Ralph, I want to thank you for coming onto the program and really highlighting them. You had a great mix of space, high tech, low tech, and just informative. It was a great show. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more, computeramerica.com will have links to everything that Ralph covered, and of course we'll also have it up on YouTube, social media, and go ahead and check it out there, as well as the podcast. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the program. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.